Okay guys, today we are going to learn about combining positive and negative fractions. So basically we're adding and subtracting fractions that could be positives just like last week, but also all of a sudden we're going to see fractions that have negatives. So we've done a little bit of this already when we dealt with our little activity on the number line. But now I'm going to just show you how to do it just on paper without a number line. So here we go. Let's go ahead and do some examples. So if you don't already have your worksheet out, make sure you grab your worksheet. If you notice your worksheets on one side, it will say add, like and unlike denominators, and then we have the other side. Here's just two sides that will say subtract like and unlike denominators. So make sure that you're going to the correct side when we're doing problems. Okay, so here we go. Alright, so the very first problem we're going to do, go to the subtract side. Let's take a look at problem number 5 on the subtract side. Alright, number 5 looks like this. Negative 1/4 minus negative 2/3. Okay, so when I do this, okay, when I go about doing this, step 1 is convert all mixed numbers to improper fractions. Okay, so if I'm taking a look here, none of these are mixed numbers, right? None of them are like 1 2/3 or something like that. So in this case, we don't have to do that. All right, now after you do that, step 2 is always, right? If we're dealing with negatives here, always check for a double negative. In this case, there is the double negative there. So I'm going to go ahead and make it into one big plus sign. Now, step 3, which I know all of you guys love, all right, is circle your numbers here, your fractions in this case, with the sign in front. And guys, you have to do this to get this correct on homework, because right now so many people struggled on our last test because they don't use the correct values, and the correct values come off of those signs. Okay, step 4 is like what we've been doing last week. We're going to go ahead and stack them up. So I'll just go ahead and put a negative 1/4 at the top and a positive 2/3 on the bottom. Step 5, find common denominators. And remember, a couple of these problems they'll already have common denominators. You won't have to do this step, but we're going to go ahead and do this. On this one, the denominators are different, 4 and 3. So remember the three different ways, the three different main ways that you can find a common denominator that we talked about. Smallest one going into the largest doesn't work here. We could make a listing, but because they are so small, I'm going to just go ahead and do what many people do, and that's multiply them together. Okay, and they're small denominators, so there's a good chance that maybe that number is our least common denominator. So here we go. The bottom. 3 times 4 is 12, so 2 times 4 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12, so 1 times 3 is 3. Now, with this particular thing, here's what we're going to do. This is a negative 1/4, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to transfer over. Remember, this is a negative 3/12. I'm going to actually put my negative with the numerator 3. Okay, so now when we solve this, like we were talking on the number line, right? This is like taking your number line, that little piece of paper we did on our previous lesson, and have 12 sections to it, right? Bottom line is that 12 sections, it doesn't matter. What really matters is we're going to go ahead and combine a negative 3 and a positive 8. So just like before, right? The negative 1/4 gives us a negative 3. Positive 2/3 gives us a positive 8 up here. So when I go ahead and combine this, I'm going to go ahead and build my t-chart. 3 negatives, 8 positives. They're on different sides, right? So I'm going to go ahead and subtract and get a positive 5. And so our answer, ladies and gentlemen, is 5/12. Now I guess you could say, don't overlook this because I almost did right now, reduce or simplify. Always check it, all right? And I just quickly mentally checked it earlier. That's how I almost missed it. But 5 is prime. It only can be divided by 5, and 5 can't go into 12, so I know that is the reduced fraction. So you could almost say step 3 when we circled our fractions could almost be here, right? It's kind of a two-parter. Circling them before you build your t-chart, okay? So it's just a skill that you're going to want to make sure you do, so when you calculate, you get the right answer. Okay, so here we go. Follow those steps. I want you to go ahead and try out problem number 6 on the add side. So make sure you flip the paper over, go to the add side. Try out problem number 6. I'll give you guys about a minute. All right, go. Okay, go ahead and finish it up. Okay, so number 6 on the add side. Okay, go ahead and compare your answers. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to do 2 things. I want you to compare your answers, okay, but I also want you to prove to your neighbor that you circled your integers when you built your t-chart. All right, I want to make sure that we clear up that error that many of us are still committing. So make sure that you guys circle those, built your t-chart correctly, okay, especially if you got your answer wrong, okay? So 30 seconds, go ahead, turn to your neighbor, your assigned neighbor, and share. Go. Okay, so number 6 on the add side was -1/4. And remember, guys, parentheses, that really doesn't change the value on this particular one. It just kind of groups a negative with the 1/4 plus 10/7, which is an improper fraction. All right, so here we go. I'm going to walk through my steps here. Step 1, I'm going to convert any mixed number to improper fraction. Well, there's an improper fraction. There is no mixed number, so I don't need to do any conversion. Okay. Step 2, okay, check for double negatives. There are no double negatives. There's no subtraction of a negative fraction. Okay, step 3, I can circle them now if I want. I already see that 1/4 is negative and 10/7 is positive. I'm going to wait, though, until later. All right, step 4 is I'm going to go ahead and stack them up. So I have my -1/4 and my positive 10/7. And then I'm going to go ahead and then step 5, right? Find common denominators if it's needed. Well, it is needed. Okay, 4 can't go into 7. Again, I can list my multiples of each, but I'm just going to risk it right now since they're both single digits. I'm going to go ahead and multiply them together. So after that, of course, equivalent fractions. So 4 times 7 is 28, so 1 times 7 is 7. Remember, don't forget your negative. Okay, and then 4 times 7 is 28, so the 10 times 4 is 40. Okay, so after we do this, I'm going to go ahead, remember, and I'm going to go ahead and solve. So we have 28 as my denominator, and this is where I could do my step 3 here, right? If you want to call it a different step, that's okay. It's just a major skill that you need to do to be successful here. Build my t-chart. I have 7 negatives and 4 D positives. I'm going to go ahead and they're on different sides like we've had before. I'm going to subtract and get 33 positives. So right so far I have excuse me, 33 28s. Now, like we've talked about, I can try to reduce 33. I can see is like a double digit number. That means it's divisible by 11. So 11 and 3. Well, 28 isn't by 11, and 3 times 9 is 27, not 28. So I'm not going to be able to reduce. That is a reduced improper fraction. Okay. Now, some of you guys are dying to change it to a mixed number. That's okay too. 28 goes into 33 one time. They're very close in size, right? And I'm thinking of my denominator is 28. My leftover, my remainder, well, all you have to do is find the difference in the two, right? So 28 to 30 is 2, and then 30 to 33 is 3, so 2 and 3 is 5. And again, you could have gone to the side and done this here and to get this, so it doesn't really matter. So either one of those would work. Okay, so one more type of problem I want to look at. So here we go. Let's go ahead and let's go back to the subtraction side. And let's take a look at problem number 12. Number 12. Now remember, this particular lesson, right, is talking about fractions, but realistically it should be rational numbers, because if you look at the bottom half of your homework, right, it's decimals, and those are rational numbers, okay, equivalent to fractions. So here I just want to go over one of these really quickly. So number 12, we take a look at number 12. We have 1 and 8/10 minus 1 and 5/10. Now, some of you may see just a quick way of doing it, and that's fine. Okay, I am still going to go through the major steps that will work on all the problems. Okay, so here we go. Step 1. This is where we want to make sure we want to make sure to get rid of any double negatives. And in this case, right, there are no double negatives. Okay, step 2 is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to circle these with the signs in front. Well, 1.8 has no sign in the front to the left, meaning it's positive. 1.5 is negative value. So then step 3 is I'm going to go ahead and again build my t-chart. This might be one of the first times we've done decimals on a t-chart, but it still works. So here we go. 1 and 8/10 is a positive. 1 and 5/10 is a negative. Again, like we've been doing the last couple of problems, they're on different sides, so I'm going to go ahead, move it over, and I'm going to subtract. So 1 minus 1 is nothing, 8 minus 5 is 3. With decimals, remember, when you add subtract, line up the place value, meaning line up those decimal points, and go ahead, and bring it down. Okay, and what we have is we have a positive 3/10. Probably a little easier than fractions, but I did want to go over one of these. Okay, I'm gonna have you guys try one right now. Probably won't take you much longer than 30 seconds to do this, so I'll go ahead and give you guys about 30 seconds. All right, stay on that subtraction side. Go ahead and do problem number 14. Number 14, go. I'll give you guys a few more seconds to finish that up if you need it. Remember, those of you that are done, go ahead and work ahead on your homework. Okay, 30 seconds. Go ahead and turn to your neighbor and share your answer. As well as I want you to share whether or not they circled the numbers, all right, with their values. All right, so go ahead and share now. Go. Okay, problem number 14. Here we go. Check it, see if you have any questions. So we have, for number 14 on the subtraction side, we have a negative 3 2/10. And then we have subtract from it 6/10. Okay, so as I look here, right, step 1 says check any double negatives. Now be careful, remember, this is not a double negative. If I make a big plus sign, it's going right through that number. That's not okay, and so therefore it's not a double negative. Okay, so what we now need to do, of course, is go ahead and circle these numbers with the value in front. So our 3 2/10 is negative value. Our 6/10 is also negative value. So we turn around, build our t-chart. 3 2/10 is on the negative side, but so is 6/10. And because they're both negatives, we're going to go ahead and add them up. So notice how, again, I kept my decimals lined up, right? My place values. So 2 plus 6 is 8. 3 plus 0 is 3. When the decimal comes straight down, I have 3 8/10. But don't forget, it's on the negative side. So negative 3 8/10. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is combining positive and negative rational numbers.